Hello, hello, hello. I have the biggest pleasure to have a beautiful interview with Ariane Hunter, which is the author of this book. And I feel like this book is also a child of mine for some reason.
It is. It is.
I feel that way. And I can just say that I'm so proud of you. I have watched your journey ever since 2017, and it's incredible. And for me, you're a source of inspiration. And I feel honored to make this interview with you and that you explain us a little bit more about your book, but also about your journey, because I think the most inspiring thing is who you are. So before we start, I just would like that you, in your own words, you describe us who is Ariane Hunter.
Oh my. We're going in with the big questions right away. So first I just want to say, Phoebe, this is an incredible, incredible honor. When you said 2017, it feels like yesterday. So much time has passed and so much has happened. And our journey has really been your journey and mine. We've been integral to each other. So it just feels like a full circle moment. You were that wrote the forward to this book that's now in the world, and did not think it was going to be at one point. It's been a long journey coming, but yes, to be in this seat and have this conversation with you is an incredible honor. So when I think about who I am and who I've become, there's so many parts of me that I now am learning to lead with. I think, if you had asked me this question, just even 5 years ago or 3 years ago, I would say, I'm a career coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a consultant, and all these things that you'll find on my bio and my resume. But I'm learning to explore other parts of me too that are just as valid and important and integral and are more definitive of my identity outside of just the professional identity, if that makes sense.
It makes
Um,
total
so
sense.
Yes, yes. So I'm a New Yorker. I'm a daughter. I'm a caregiver. I am the daughter of immigrant parents. I am a wife. I am a business woman. I am, I love to dance. I love to listen to music. I'm a dog mom. I'm a plant mom. I'm a sister. I'm a work in progress. I'm a student. I am all of those things and none of those things. So it's been a practice of sort of, again, just exploring, all of these identities, and learning to really expand the ones that I feel, most aligned to and connected to, or, those parts that have been maybe hidden away, and, and just, bringing them more to the center, because it is a multi-dimensional part of me that that I want to share with the world, and I'm in, sort of better harmony with. So that's what I would say to that question.
I love that answer. And I also will define you like the explorer,
Yeah.
like the person who is always exploring how to become the best version of yourself. And I think this is what it makes you so special, no? Because I think they're that kind of a special person who really always try to explore what can I go farther from who I am today, right? So I love it.
Thank
And
you.
let's get into the book, because what inspired you really to write this manifesto, and how does your own journey as a Black woman entrepreneur influence the themes in this book?
Yeah. So this book has been a long time coming. I've always known that I wanted to write a book. My career has been, almost 20 years of career development, career coaching work. So when I initially, thought of this book and the book that I wanted to write, that was what it was to me. It's a career book, but what it became from that was so much more. And the timing of when this book released, it was really, the divine timing that, this book is out in the world right now. And it was born out of this deep desire to create a space for Black women like me. I have been, always someone who has challenged the status quo. I started off my career in corporate America, really checking my boxes and really making sure that I had all of the things that they say you should have in order to obtain success and fulfillment. And I learned very early on in my career that, life life is more than just a series of boxes to check. So I really wanted to highlight our experiences as Black women professionals, as entrepreneurs, to really highlight our stories and our narratives, to invite us to, question and evaluate, some of the things that we have been taught and told, in terms of what success looks like and what we should aspire towards. My own journey has been, marked with moments of uncertainty and just more questions than I had answers to, but I just kept my nose to the grindstone, and just even just that phrase, right? It's just you keep your head down and you just keep going. But there comes a time that you do have to reevaluate and ask yourself, is this what I truly want? Am I happy here? Does this look like fulfillment to me? And so the pandemic really, gave us this opportunity, this moment where we all could experience, as a global, society, and just ask ourselves those questions, right? It was a moment where we were able to really slow down and ask those questions, and we were all home because we had to be. And unfortunately, it took that, for us to ask these questions. And I talk about in my book that sometimes pain is the ultimate motivator, and so we needed this moment in time to really pause us so that we can ask those deeper questions. So this book helps you on that journey. This book helps to really walk you through, if you are at a career crossroads right now, if you are really, reevaluating, what's important to you right now, your values, and how well you are feeling aligned to them, and leading from that place, right? And it's not to judge you, and it's not to criticize any decisions that you've made to this point in your career, because again, we have been, taught a certain way to aspire towards success. So this book lovingly and gently, and, a little bit of a push as well, but, guides you to ask and explore those questions for yourself. What does that leap look like for me? I wanted to write this manifesto for us and by us as Black women, because we know that our experiences, tend to look a little bit differently than most other groups, right? So I wanted to highlight those experiences, bringing us back to what is it like to dream again, right? Because even in that word, to dream, right, to carve out space, to imagine, to push back, on the things that you have been told, right? This is an opportunity that we get to choose into, where many of our ancestors did not have that opportunity. So it's remembering, and having that call to action, that knowing that dreaming is your birthright. And even if you can do it in small doses every single day, you're paying honor to your spirit, to your ancestors that have come before you, and really paving that way for the future generations. So that's the genesis of this book, and really the call to action that I invite, my readers to really step into.
I love that. And how important is community and mentorship for Black women in building their dreams?
Yes, so incredibly, like, mentorship and community cannot be understated. And I have to say personally, you were a big part of that. I think at the time that we met, back in 2017, it sounds so crazy, so long ago. But I was seeking community, I was seeking mentorship, I was seeking, to see other women who looked like me, who did the things that I aspired to do. So I needed to have, that as an integral part of my career strategy and my own development. I think oftentimes we, kind of go at it alone, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's, easier to just kind of figure things out, and we're kind of having,
Totally.
yes, that pressure, that expectation to just figure it out, and so that served me, until it didn't, and it shouldn't have to, it shouldn't have to be just you on your own. And so, that became a crucial pillar, part of the work that I was building, having people around us to affirm our vision, to be honest, to challenge us, to cheerlead us, having those relationships with women who are going to be reflective, and bring positivity to your journey. Sometimes, one of the things that I had experienced when I was kind of in this transition of exploring my career and, thinking about being a business owner and an entrepreneur, a lot of the people around me at the time, were choosing into traditional career paths, and they didn't question it. They're just like, this is what you do. You're not supposed to love your job. You're not supposed to love your work. You just clock in and get a paycheck. And that's fine. No shade to anyone who that's working for you. Great, but that's not the type of people that I wanted to be around me in terms of reflecting that message. So I had to go out and seek out other people, other thinkers, creators, trailblazers who were, again, pushing the narrative and trying something different. We're leading into possibilities and exploring what new solutions can be. So those were the type of people that I wanted to surround myself with. So it really is about building that community of folks that can reflect that back to you and reflect it back often. Entrepreneurship can be, as you know, very isolating and a solo sport sometimes. So being intentional about creating that community is so important.
And I'm so glad that thanks to that relationship that we created together, today I'm able to see what you accomplish. And I always put you on an example of the perfect mentee that really do the work. And I think you were so committed to your success, and you were so committed to also change your own narrative. Because I remember how the corporate world was wearing you out, and you have all this passion and creativity, and you just needed to explore new ways of doing things, and you just you just change your mentality from, you know what, I'm going to be the creator of my life. And I think I would like to point out, because a lot of people might feel, oh, I mean, it's easy, but you did not have it easy. I know exactly, I mean, your journey, and this is incredible what you accomplished, right? And how you went through all these fears, all of these limited beliefs, and you just changed the the game completely, right? Um, I would like to know, in your own view, what does success look like for Black women taking the leap and being their own bosses, right? Because you just explained other ways of being successful, but
Mhm.
how that it looks like for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that success is really subjective. It
Hmm.
really depends. You really get to decide, what does success look like for you? And I really encourage, Black women to think about success beyond the resume, beyond the titles, beyond, again, the messaging that maybe, you've heard from parents and older generations, teachers even, right? And taking what works for you and leaving the rest. Um, Black women are the most fastest growing, group of entrepreneurs, and that has been the case for the last several years, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon, right? So it's really about this moment that we're in right now in history, right? We will never ever get this moment again, and so really, maximizing this opportunity. We have a Black woman running for president right now. Okay, can I
How
just,
is that?
like, let that just sit in. And it's an incredible moment, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know, but we are living in this moment in history that we really get this opportunity to change the course of where we go next, right? So when we think about, taking the leap, being your own boss. Maybe it's entrepreneurship for you. I talk about that in my book, and our careers being vehicles for self-discovery, for healing, for liberation, right? Maybe entrepreneurship is not for you, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But this is really about owning your own narrative of, again, what does success look like to you? You can be your own boss and work full time for a company. That's okay too, right? So
Absolutely.
success, right? You're thinking about more than just profitability, more than about visibility. It's about creating that life that is meaningful and in alignment with your values. Sometimes we have to acknowledge the healing that needs to happen, the undoing, the unlearning of a narrative that we have to overwork or overproduce, check our boxes, sacrifice our own well-being in order to succeed. Okay, so again, this is our moment to push back on those narratives. And even if you can do that, in small doses, you've already created, success for yourself. So I really want us to kind of lean into that, being in control of your time, right? Knowing what your values are, your energy, what's sucking your energy versus giving you energy right now. What are your boundaries? This is something that I talk with my clients a lot about. What are your boundaries, and what does it look like to honor those boundaries and to articulate those boundaries, particularly at work, right? So choosing into what are the things that will allow you to do your best work in the world, right? And centering that and leading from that place. That to me is what dreaming on purpose looks like. That to me is what taking the leap and being your own boss looks like.
Mm. And let's go to the practical steps that
Yeah.
someone should take that is in a traditional career and would like to jump into become their own bosses. What you will
Yes.
tell them? I mean, because
Yes.
people need practicality. I mean, now
Yes.
it's perfect. We spoke from that perspective of wishing, want it, but some people need the ABCs. What are those?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I'm not going to say anything earth-shattering, but the thing is that we don't often do it, right? So we like to think about like, what is the dream? What is it? This is not working. Like, okay, let's distill it down into action steps. And these are the things that sometimes we tend to skip over, and I understand why. So the first thing I would say is getting clear on your why. Right? Getting clear, what
Mm.
does your dream look like? And this is a work that you and I have done all those years ago, Priscilla. And so and I talk about in the book how resistant I was. I'm like, I've done this already. Let's skip over that part.
I
Don't skip
remember.
it. Don't skip it. Save yourself time. This is time that you're going to need anyway to self-reflect. Get clear on what your why is. So you don't have to have all the answers to it, but start small. What is it that I want? Maybe it could be, I want to switch to 100%, remote position. I want to, I don't know, double my income in the next year. I want to be able to take a sabbatical next year if I want to. Allow yourself to actually articulate what those things are. And it's going to feel scary, and that's okay. It's supposed to. If they don't feel scary, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. You're not dreaming, big enough. But get clear on your why. Write it down. I'm old school when it comes to using journals. Use your journal.
Me
Something
too.
about, right, you get it, like just something about writing, your dreams, your goals, your possibilities, writing it down every single time. Whenever it comes to you, whenever you're inspired to do so, write it down. There's something very powerful about the act of writing it down versus typing it out. You can type it out later, but I would encourage, write it out first in your journal and just keep it very close to you. Do your research, right? Set out time in your calendar. And this is the thing, we get so caught up with full schedules. There's a lot of things happening. If you're parents, if you're, your partners, everybody's going to be vying for your time. So this is where, again, your boundaries come into play. You have to protect your time more than anything, right? So it's like, I always use this example of, like if you have a doctor's appointment, chances are would not miss that appointment, right? So that appointment that you keep with yourself, mark it down. And maybe it's every Monday at between 8 to 9 p.m., you are working on your dreams, you're working on your business, you're doing something to check your own box, right? To move you closer to where you want to be. Do your research, start to look at what's out there. What are the opportunities? Sometimes you have to expand outside of your own bubble. Start talking to some people. LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. So if you're not active on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, right? Absolutely set some time during the week. It could be 10 minutes, it could be half an hour. Do it on your lunch break. Go on LinkedIn, make some new connections, and revisit some old ones. These are some tried and true methods that are not earth shattering, but are really simple tasks that you can do to start shifting your mindset that I am doing this, I am making time for me, right? So cultivating that network. We talked about mentorship, we talked about community. These are going to be people that is within your network and that you want to take steps to actually expand your network network and meet with new people and get some fresh ideas and things like that. Earlier on in my career, when I first started my business, I had a mastermind group, they call it. I probably call it something different now, but it was a group basically of about 5 of us, and we would meet every month for about an hour or so to talk about our business. So we would go through what's going on, what's currently happening, what our challenges are, and then we would crowdsource, different solutions to those challenges. We would go around, right? So I would always leave those groups so inspired, so energized, so excited, because I had women that would pour into me, that would listen to me, that got exactly what I was going through and would offer solutions and things like that. So I would say those three things: get clear on your why, write it down, right? Cultivate your community, go to LinkedIn, make some new connections, and keep those meetings going. Set that time on your calendar every single week to, make a concerted effort, take small actions towards your dreams.
I love that. I subscribe everything. And how do you navigate the intersection of race, gender, entrepreneurship? And what advice would you give Black women balancing these identities in the business world?
Yeah. So I talk about this in the branding chapter
Mhm.
of my book, and really, going outside of sort of the traditional definitions of what a brand is. Again, it's not just your title, it's not just, what you've done. That's very much a part of it. But looking at, how has your cultural experiences, how does that help to inform how you perceive the world, right? So really understanding. I talk about this too in the book, in that my grandmother, my great grandmother, was an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship runs through my genealogy, my family, lineage. So I use that as information for me. I use that in how I lead, how I show up with clients. I've learned to see my identity as a Black woman not as a disadvantage, right, but as a source of strength and affirmation. And I want to highlight that because, if you're in workspaces where your identity is not affirmed, or you don't feel included, I think there's going to be, oftentimes we experience sort of a dominant narrative of what, one's experience should be, right? And so there's an invisibility that happens when you're, not in inclusive spaces where you can hear diverse perspectives and different races and different, cultural upbringings and all the things that make us unique. So we have to do that extra work, of affirming, our identities as Black women. And again, using that as a source of strength. I would say stay rooted in your values, let them guide your decisions every single day. I use the story of a client that I worked with, who, at the time, this was a while ago, but she was opening up a nail polish company. And so, we worked together on her elevator pitch and how she introduced herself. And, she would, she was very strong in her elevator pitch, but there was something missing, right? She talked about how great her company is, how they use, organic, non-toxic chemicals in their nail polishes, and all great stuff and wonderful. But once I was able to dig deeper a little bit with her, turns out her why for starting the company is that her mother, who had since passed away, one of the things that she remembered about her mother is that her mother would always have her nails done. Always have her nails done. And it was a source of confidence and pride in her. And I'm like, where is that in your story? You need to lead with that. There's not
Absolutely.
everyone that can say, that my mom, this Black woman who has worked so hard, but she always made time to make sure that her nails were done. And it was a sort. Those are the things that really make a connection, with folks when you're talking about your work and you're talking about your why. These are the relationships we want to build. These are the stories we want to showcase. So again, leaning into, your values and staying rooted in that, and surrounding yourself with people who get that.
Wonderful. And what changes do you hope to see in the entrepreneurial landscape of Black women in the next decade?
Oh gosh. Well, there's so many things. I want to see that number of entrepreneurs continue to grow. I want to see our source of I want to see us have access to resources grow as
Mm.
well. We are disproportionately behind as compared to other groups when it comes to capital, financial resources, access to capital, access to mentorship, right? And we're starting to see the needle move a little bit there, but there's still so much to so much work to do there. So these are the places that I think that we can really make the most impact if we had access to the right resources. So I want to see those numbers change. I want to see us, really reflected when you think about, a tech entrepreneur. I want what you visualize in your head to also include Black women. I want it to
Yes.
include women of color, right? When you think about these things that are traditionally, male dominated or, white men dominated, right? So thinking about, so expanding what that profile of entrepreneurship looks like. Same thing when it comes to healthcare, different industries that we're disproportionately behind in. I want to see more representation when it comes to entrepreneurship and leading that pathway forward.
Love it. And how should Black women redefine failure in the context of pursuing your dreams? Because you don't believe that we're harder on ourselves when it comes to that word, failure?
Absolutely. I think that we can be especially critical on ourselves because we've had to work so hard to make a name for ourselves, to be recognized, to be accepted. So when failure hits, despite all the work and that we pour into the things that we want to do, I think we can especially take that hard. And I included myself in that, and I'm still continuing to be a work in progress around that. But we really have to understand when failure happens, when disappointment happens. It's going to happen. It's just part of it. It's just part of it, especially when you're in the early stages of taking any sort of leap within your career, whether it's starting a business or doing something new that you've never done before, right? There's gonna be some missteps as you learn and grow and develop who you are, and that's okay. So what I would say to that is start to build a relationship with your self talk, right? And so, what
Mm,
I mean by that is increasing your level of awareness. What do you hear yourself say to yourself in the moments of adversity or when something doesn't go the way you thought it would, right? So I've had moments where I would hear my own self talk and like, oh, you messed up. They're never going to give you another second chance. And blah blah blah. Have grace with yourself. Give that to yourself first because no one else is going to give it to you, right? So if you cultivate that practice of self-care, of having the right loving words that you can then say to yourself, especially in those moments where you feel the pressure, right? That relationship that you cultivate with yourself it's going to open doors for you. It trust me on this. It really teaches people how to treat you, right? When you learn how to treat yourself, with the
mm.
care and the love and the respect that you deserve, showing it to yourself and being that example for other people. So leaning into that. I know we've heard advice of like, learn from your failures. It's always a growth opportunity, and those are things are true, absolutely. But again, I find that it's more about your relationship to yourself and your self-talk, and making sure that you're feeding yourself with loving words and loving actions, and that's how you're going to be able to treat other people with that same love. But you first have to show it to yourself.
Love it. Love it. And are there any Black women entrepreneurs that inspire you and their stories really, for you, are essential to be here?
Yeah, it's funny when I started writing this book. um it was an opportunity for me to go back into my own history and go back into my own upbringing and identify the women that were so integral, to my own development. And of course, my mother and seeing her come to this country. She's Caribbean. She's from Jamaica, and she came here and just finding her way. And talk about hard worker. And I know a lot, of us listening to this episode here can relate. Hard work is just so central. We know how to work hard. But the person that really kind of rises to the top in terms of my own development is my grandmother. So Barbara Naomi Davis, I want to say her name. I dedicated my book to her. She is the original dream chaser when she came to this country from Jamaica with little to nothing. The things that she had to go through, the fear that she encountered as a Jamaican woman in this country, the community that she had to cultivate that was necessary for her own survival. She was the definition of a woman who sacrificed so much. I would not be here if she didn't make the choices that she made. So I am internally grateful to her every single day. I will also say that she worked so hard that eventually it ravaged her body, and she is not here anymore. And she worked herself till her body was unwell. And so I want to always preserve that memory, because we live in a society that is that values pushing yourself beyond the brink. When you're sick, when you're not feeling well, we tend to push through. And we know how to do that. So I want this book to be a call to action for us to rethink those things, because again, we live in this society that you can be replaced in a heartbeat. It will always be work to do, but you will never get back, family, friends, moments that really, really matter the most, So I never want to make, this work that I'm doing as an entrepreneur, as this book, like everything that I will continue to do in this world will never it will never take over the things that are truly important to me, because we need to have rest. We need to have compassion for ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves when we are not feeling well. And so learning to tune into our bodies, check in, make sure that we are giving ourselves what we need. These are things that my grandmother just didn't have the tools to know how to do. These are conversations that I have with my mother now, and I'm so grateful that I can have these. We're in a moment where I can have these conversations, and she's more open to it, and she's challenging her own ways around work, and rest, and what does that mean for her. So I talk about that in the book. I dedicated an entire chapter to rest, because I do think it's time that we really reevaluate what it means to burn ourselves out and to start to cultivate rest instead. So that's what I would point out.
That's so wonderful. And it just to finalize, because what I want is people to read you. And I would like to know, what is the biggest lessons that you learned with writing this book, and how did it really change your perspective on business and leadership?
I learned in writing this book that I want to say that I'm not crazy. And what I mean by that is I
We know
I
that.
I'm not crazy. These ideas are not radical. They do seem like that because we are, you know, in a society that is just, we're validated based on our professional identity. And when I started this work back in, gosh, I want to say officially like 2011, even before then, I knew that there was something broken with how we work, our work culture in particular, even entrepreneurship. And so I knew that when, you see someone saying, make six figures in 6 months, there's something wrong with that. Um, Success doesn't come to you overnight, but we tend to, pedestal people who have that overnight success, and we expect it for ourselves as well. So I want us to kind of rethink that, and really know that success now has to look a lot different than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even pre-pandemic. So really changing that narrative, and knowing that these ideas, if you feel it internally, your dreams come from, a place within, and we have to start to listen to that, because that's literally what the world needs right now. It's literally what you need right now in order to heal something in your life, right? So this may sound like really scary. It may sound like something like, I don't want any part of that. You might want to resist it, but take it from me, the more you resist a calling, or the reason why you are here. I talk about, our purpose. It starts to get a little bit louder, the more you ignore it. So really leaning into, what are the whispers that you hear in your quietest, stillest moments? What are they calling on, for you to become, for you to be? Again, this is not a practice in checking your boxes or filling your resume. We love the accomplishments. We want to keep them coming. We want to, really have those tangible goals that we go after as well. But really staying grounded with what you are here to do as a person, and really integrating that as a personal practice. So I just want to leave that, with the reader, with the listeners out here. Take up space unapologetically. That's something that I learned to do in writing this book, is that, we need to hear your story. Trust in the divine timing of when, your time is going to come, because it will. Your ideas, your work, it has value. Who you are has value. So I wanted to undergo that same experience for myself in writing this book. It was very scary to put my life, out on the pages. And then when it got released, I was like, oh my God, people are going to actually be reading this. So that was another panic that I had. But go back to your original why. We talked about that earlier in the conversation, right? Go back to it, because there are going to be moments where you need to remind yourself of why you started. Okay. So having that mission, having that why, having that North Star to lead you and to inspire you to get up every day. I promise it won't steer you wrong. So dreaming on purpose, it's the best journey that I have taken for myself. And I invite those who are listening to the sound of my voice to choose into yourself as well.
Well, I could not be prouder, honestly. And I totally agree that people should read your book, particularly Black women. I do believe that you are the perfect example of a dream manifester who really is just being so generous, because, I mean, you make it here. I mean, I think you just unwave the ways that you can do it. And I think that you're right. Everybody can really live up to their dreams. It depends on them. And I think that we have to give ourselves that permission. We all have a voice and we have to put it out there. And you did it. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's the whole thing is beautiful. And I love it. And I want everyone who listened to this conversation to please invite other people also to read this book, because you're going to give them the best gift that you can give. A book can change absolutely your life. And of course, you can read her and then talk to her. I guarantee you that she's also a perfect person who's going to help you to lead into that direction. And I know that for a fact, not only because he's my mentee, but he's also my friend, my sister. And I know the level of professionalism and commitment that she has with everyone. So thank you so much for the conversation. I love the whole book. It's here in my library, and I'm so happy. And honestly, I also learned things from you. And that's the most beautiful thing, because I mean, you teach me so many things and refresh my mind like an entrepreneur to read you. So thank you for this book. Thank you.
Thank you for the honor, Bibi, and thank you for being such an amazing part of this journey. And I look forward to continuing being a part of each other's journey. And I want to make sure that this book can be accessible to your readers. So I'm happy to offer 10% off discount for those who are looking to read the book. I'm happy to provide that as well, and make that more accessible for those who are just a little curious.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will make sure that people, I mean, around the world reach you, because I think they need to. So thank you,
Thank you.
Ariane, for just being brave enough to just jump into this space to become a writer.
Thank you so much.